am a publisher, and one day my daughter Christina asked me to write a novel with her. Well, that day was long ago, and that little girl is now an adult. But our novels live on. The Truth Seekers Mystery Series highlights a homeschool family, the Murphy teens, in an action-adventure novel that is sure to entertain as well as teach creation truths. To get your copy, visit our website at truthseekersmysteryseries.com.
This is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Welcome to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Your host, Felice Gerwitz, is an author, a publisher, and your radio show host. She will encourage, educate, and inspire you with answers to your most pressing questions, from homeschool, marriage, parenting, and much more. Felice loves to equip moms to live a Christian life because every moment counts. Be sure to visit her website at mediaangels.com. And here's your host, Felice Gerwitz.
Hi and welcome everyone. This is Felice Gerwitz, and today I am going to be talking about teaching your child tolerance without selling your soul. I know it is a little bit over the top, but you get the gist. So you can find today's show notes for this episode at vintagehomeschoolmoms.com, episode 421. Please visit my website at mediaangels.com and be sure to sign up for some of our monthly planners. We have new character planners each month, and this month the topic is tolerance. This planner has some fun activities that you can do with your kids, and I think parents really appreciate the page with all the scenarios, kind of what I'm going to be talking to you about doing today. I asked the children some questions that they can act out or write out, and they're open-ended, and they have a lot of opportunity for discussion. At the end of the month, the younger ones can earn a character award that's provided in the planner. And after the month is over, you can go to mediaangels.com and purchase the planner if you did not get it for free. So I have a lot of last year's past planners as well as the months that go by. All right. So I think we can all agree we lived in a mixed up world. Right is wrong and wrong is right. We're allowed to have an opinion if it's the right one. So how do we educate our kids with our own beliefs if we have parameters of what we can and can't say? So that's what I'm going to tackle in this episode, and also, give you some food for thought as we all begin this very uncharted world in which we live. So where do we begin? Many of us feel abandoned. We've been deserted by everyone we thought we could trust, especially those in authority in our world. And we look at the news, politics, our friends and neighbors, our relatives, and even some of our pastors. And if this world is any indication of where it's headed, for many of us, we look at it as heading down the wrong path. So, if we teach our children values and teach them to be tolerant of others who may not agree with us, which is, some of what Christianity teaches, that we need to be loving and love people as Christ did, because Christ surrounded himself with those who, very possibly were not approved of by others, right? But his call was not to continue on in their sinful ways. It was for change. But how do we deal with this? We live in a volatile culture, and we need to teach our kids to compromise, but not compromise their beliefs. And I think the word tolerant means to just put up with something, to put up with noise, to put up with hardship, to put up with, annoying people. You tolerate that. But does it mean that we have to be accepting of the beliefs of others? One definition is from the American Heritage Dictionary, and it says, and I quote, Tolerance is the capacity for or the practice of recognizing and respecting the beliefs and practices of others. I think we can all agree that it's even-minded and a fair assessment of how we as Christians should be. We can recognize and respect the beliefs and practices of others and their free will to make choices. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean that we have to agree with it. But on the fair side of it, it means that they have to respect our free will and our choices. But that's not what we're finding in this world. Friends, we cannot serve two masters if we have one foot in the world trying to please all those around us who disagree with our beliefs, and one foot in the spiritual world where truth is compared to the teachings of the Bible and perhaps your particular denomination. Well, we find ourselves in a situation where we're on very unstable ground. So now that that's determined that there is a problem, what do? So I have 5 quick things, and then we'll dive down into them a little bit deeper. The first is clarify your beliefs and explain these to your children. You will be surprised that what you assume they know, they don't. The second is explain the differences between tolerance and compromise. The third is explain the concept of the line in the sand. The fourth is explain when compromise can be possible or is possible. And the fifth is to explain acceptance does not mean agreement. This just gives you an outline to start with. And of course, please add to this if you have some ideas because, you may have thought of something that I didn't. But I'm really trying to drill down and stay on topic here. And the first is to clarify your beliefs and explain them to your children. Many times we expect our kids to pick up on our beliefs through osmosis. This is an impossibility. We have to spell things out clearly for our kids of all ages. Do you teach them right and wrong? Do you give them examples of consequences? Do you explain how to make good decisions? These are actually lessons I'm working on and hope to have completed sometime in the near future. But I go through different scenarios with the kids and ask them to make decisions. And some decisions are benign. It doesn't really matter if you go right or left, but it does matter if right is the road and left is the water. So in some cases, you have to be able to make that decision. And a lot of times, our kids may know briefly what we believe, but there's morals and virtues that are important, and character, of course. The second is explain the difference between tolerance and compromise. Tolerance is allowing and accepting that we are different, not bullying or calling someone out for their differences, maybe an opinion. And compromise is the ability to make a decision that is agreeable to both people. Compromise and tolerance never allow for the squelching of our own beliefs to be trampled on for the sake of what someone else wants or someone else says. In other words, just because we tolerate that somebody might watch a movie that we would never watch or find objectionable, it doesn't mean we compromise and watch it with them. The third is explain the concept of the line in the sand. What is that line you will not cross? When do you say no and walk away? This must be clear. Do your children know and understand? And further, do they know what to do in that situation? When is compromise not possible? So there has to be a time when there is a situation, and your children need to know what that clear situation is. And the fourth is explain when compromise is possible. Is it for choices in the areas of like selecting a game or, going somewhere? Do we go to the park or do we go to a movie, or what movie you want to watch? As long as it's acceptable, it might not be a favorite, but you compromise and you give in to someone else's, wants. And basically it's giving in for the sake of peace and unity. That's fine. Again, it's not compromising your ethics or your belief. And the fifth is explain that acceptance or tolerance does not mean you agree. If you tolerate the decision that someone makes, that doesn't mean you agree with them. And this is a fine line, and kids need to understand what that means. I can tolerate you making noise, but that does not mean I want you to make noise. And you can give other examples. Our children need to be given scenarios so that they can practice how to talk to people that they disagree with in a loving and kind manner. As you may or may not have experienced, there is extreme vitriol on social media among those who disagree with points of view. Since when have we been unable to discuss things rationally? Never in all of my life. I have never seen this kind and this level of disagreements that have turned, just terrible. And I think we can give our kids a very simple explanation. And one of the ways that we can do this and actually practice it at home is when you give your kids directions and they may get upset. Have you ever given your child instructions about doing something and they get upset and start talking loudly and angrily? Of course, we're tempted to react in the same way, but we can use these as teaching moments. If your child is the one getting angry, you can have them sit until they are calm, and I would highly recommend not sending them away, because when we do, kids tend to go to their rooms and get distracted, or they sit there and they think about how unjust their parents are. I can remember doing this as a kid. The best advice I have is to ask your child why they are so angry, and you'll be surprised at the answer. Most of the time, it isn't even the reason that you really are angry at them. And, I've done this many years in parenting, and I've learned that my children's concepts are always different, or mostly different, than mine. The idea here is to look at the way we react when people do not share our opinion. Tolerance can be benign. I'm going to tolerate a messy room, or loud music, or staying up late. That doesn't mean I agree, and I'll just say, if you want to live in a room where you can't find anything, or if you want to hear music and nothing else, or if you want to experience tiredness the next day because you didn't go to bed, that's tolerating. But this doesn't compromise faith or morals. And that is the bottom line. When our constitutional rights, starting with the First Amendment, are trampled upon for the sake of someone else's ideal of what is right and just, it is time that we as people begin first in our own families before we go out into the world. So friends, I hope this has been helpful for you. It was a topic that was really heavy on my heart. And as I looked at the list of topics I had to choose from that I have not done, I have about 48 character topics, and I've done 12 for last year. And I was looking at this year's, and this just hit me as something that I wanted to talk about, because I think for so many years, we as a people have been tolerant of people that we do not agree with, but it's not reciprocated, and now more than ever. Well, take care. God bless. Check out my other podcast, A Few Minutes with God podcast. I podcast on that channel over at the Ultimate Christian Podcast Network. And as always, check out some of the other podcasts on this network, the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. If you would give me a star rating, share this with a friend, sign up for our newsletter, and I hope to talk to you soon. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Visit Felice at MediaAngels.com and TheVintageHomeschoolMoms.com. Vintage Homeschool Moms is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.